All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Everybody who could, then everybody who will be watching this recording later on. So this is the Sun Guardians All Hands meeting, and our main focus today is for Burgins, and Matt is going to take the lead on that conversation.
Yep. So you want me to go ahead and start?
It's all you, buddy.
Cool. So I'm going to be pretty quick, and I'm going to show a few things, and then I just want to give time to the Burgins and, frankly, anyone who has questions about the camp or about Burning Man in general, so we can discuss those as a group. I'm also available on Facebook, or you can email me, text me. I'll put all my contact info on the Sun Guardians group if you have questions later. Because typically what happens is we'll get a few weeks out and then you're like, oh my God, do I need to buy this thing? Or can I, skimp and like not bring it or bring this other thing instead? And so, I'm happy to help you with those kinds of questions. Good morning, asshole. That's a good cup, Scott, for you. All right, so I'm going to try to screen share. Let me see if I can get the right tab. 1 second. So if you haven't seen it already, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, we see.
Cool. All right. So if you haven't seen it already, I shared a few links in the Facebook group on kind of, it was like 4 different links of things that you definitely need to read. Hopefully you've read those by now. If not, we'll go through those quickly right now. First of all, if you haven't already, please fill out this form. Scott posted the link in our Facebook group. This will just give us some information for planning purposes. Like when you're arriving, transportation, dietary needs is really important, so we can plan, how much meat versus veggie to bring, and also the meal you want to volunteer for. So if you don't have this link, please ping me and I can send you this link. And again, it is in the Facebook group. So the first thing that is absolutely required reading is the 10 principles. I'm not going to go through all of these. If you can, please read them like right now, and we can talk about those. And the second link is the Burning Man Survival Guide. So this guide, you should have gotten a paper copy of the guide. And if you don't have a paper copy that came with your ticket, or you're still waiting on a ticket, it's available online here at survival.burningman.org. This is absolutely required reading. Please read it cover to cover. I mean, I even read it again this year, and there are some things that have changed, and just some good reminders there. The website kind of sucks, to be honest. I would probably just download the PDF here and then like print it out, or save a digital copy. And I think that's just the like digital version of the paper guide. So this covers things like not only what Burning Man is, but also like what kinds of resources are available on the playa and what resources are not available. And it talks about leave no trace, which is extremely important. Rules and regulations. They also have like a whole section on law enforcement, which some of those regulations have been updated. So I encourage you to read that. For example, even though now Nevada is, I think it's a medical marijuana state, you're still on federal land, so you cannot have marijuana, and you can be arrested and put in jail if you have marijuana on federal land, even though Nevada has different laws. So things like that are very important for you to understand, because there are federal rangers driving around in scary SUVs at the event. In my experience, they typically don't interact with anyone, which is kind of bizarre. And generally, if you just leave them alone, they won't bug you. In any case, and then I would say the most important section here is your survival in Black Rock City. This talks about, in particular, like things you absolutely must bring. For example, water. Like, yes, the camp will be providing water, but in the case that like our water delivery doesn't come for some reason, you need to have your own water because there is no water available on the playa for purchase. There's a whole lot of things here. Another thing is you must have your ID. Apparently this year they're talking about, so if you go to like an open bar at a camp, they will oftentimes check your ID regardless of how old you are, and they'll want to see that your actual ID, not a photocopy, because a photocopy of your ID is not enough apparently. So be prepared to carry around your ID and keep it safe. So whether that be, your driver's license, if you live in the US, or a passport, if you're coming from another country, make sure you have that on you and keep it safe. So I won't go into too much detail. There's a lot in this survival guide. Again, please read it cover to cover. So last year, just to take a step back, I was actually a Burgin last year, or a Burgin, as I like to say, and Scott likes to correct me. I actually found these videos on the Burning Man website to be really helpful. Most of this content is covered in the survival guide, but these just kind of outline it for you. If you're like eating lunch someday, you can watch these videos, and they're kind of funny, and they explain why some of these things are important. For example, the leave no trace video is interesting. Also, the in this video, the etiquette and ethos, they talk about things like branding, and how, like if you're driving a big truck into Burning Man, they expect that you're going to cover up all the logos on your truck, and why that's important. At first, it's not very intuitive, so I would watch this video to understand why that's important. Last but not least, certainly, is your packing list. This is going to become like your Bible, or maybe a part of your Bible. I would say the survival guide is extremely important, and also your packing list. I used this. This is like a publicly available Google spreadsheet that someone put together. It's been recirculated over the years of Burning Man. This has a ton of stuff in it. Frankly, a lot of this stuff you won't need. It's really depends on you. For example, 5-HTP. I don't know if you're going to need that. Something, if you know what 5-HTP is, you might consider bringing. But things like a towel, yes, you need to bring a towel. And if you have questions about some of these like nice to have, like should I bring a tutu? Yes, you should bring a tutu. I'd actually say that that's a must have, because there's Tutu Tuesdays, and it's fun. But your survival isn't dependent on it, just your fun. So I would say for the most part, the things under the must column are needed, and look through the things that are like nice to have or optional, and think about are those things that I want to bring. The cool thing about this list is you can actually make a copy of it. So you can do like when you're logged into Google, you can do make a copy, and then you can just start editing your own list. And that's what I did last year, and that's what I'll do this year again. So some of these rows I just took out altogether because I didn't need them. And other rows, I would just go through and say, this is what I have. I need to buy this, or the camp will be providing this. For the most part, the camp will not be providing most of these things, but things like food, you need to bring enough food to survive on the playa. That's one of the principles of radical self-reliance. That being said, breakfast, well, brunch and dinner will be provided in camp. We'll all be cooking at least one day in camp. So you'll need to bring food for your meal, but you won't need to bring food for the entire trip, you know, so you don't need to bring like eggs and whatnot to like cook every day. But I would bring, you know, things like trail mix, protein bars, dried fruit, jerky, just so you have things to snack on, you know, if you get hungry during the day. And also, you know, again, in case something horrible happens and, you know, the camp can't prepare food, you know, you have some food to eat while you're there. So that's basically it. There's a lot of information there. Let me stop screen sharing. Cool. Oh, and by the way, this is what the survival guide looks like, the printed version. It's pretty awesome. I would actually encourage, if you don't have a printed version with your ticket, print out a copy and bring it with you, because there will be no cell service or very, very little cell service on the playa. And it's very handy to have a copy of this. And I just carried it around with me at Burning Man because I found it helpful at times. Like, for example, where the hell do I get ice? Or, you know, how someone needs help, medical attention, what do I do? I forgot. You know, you can always refer to your survival guide. So print out a copy of it if you don't have it. So yeah, at this point, just want to open it up to questions, concerns, and yeah, let me know what you think.
So, hello, this is Craig. I had some questions that they're kind of specific about shade structures for the tents. I know we had discussed it on our workday. I just wonder if there was any resolution around what that might look like. Should we bring our own shade structure, or are we going to try to build one for all of the tents?
That is a good question. And actually, I'm not entirely clear on that. I last year I did bring my own shade structure, which helped a little bit. Scott, do we have a shade structure for the tents, or is it just for the common areas? I think you're muted, Scott. Okay.
I see two Scots, so maybe there's some confusion there.
Yeah, Scott, I think you need to unmute on your phone because that's the one the audio is working on. Okay. So yeah, if you want to type, Scott, I can relay you.
Whoever is the owner of this Hangout can actually unmute Scott for him.
Yeah, I'm not the owner, unfortunately. Okay, so he said, so Christy is working on shading. Do we have Christy on the call? I don't see her. So we will provide an update on that as to whether or not there will be shading for all the tents. Yeah, Scott said this is not guaranteed. So I would say it's a nice to have if you want to bring your own shade structure. You know, typically once the sun comes up, it's going to get really hot really quick, and your tent will kind of turn into a nice little oven. A shade structure helps a little bit, but it's still really hot. I wasn't really able to sleep during the day in my tent. If I wanted to like take a nap, I would go find a spot. Like there are other camps that just have like chill out spots. Like there's one camp that had a whole bunch of hammocks under a giant shade structure. And you can literally just hang out and like take a power nap if you need. But I found it really hard to sleep during the day. But that's just me. I know other people did. I don't know how they managed that.
I have a question. Actually, more of a point, and it might be funny. I don't know how. We are the sun guardians. I mean, the first thing we should be doing is, protecting ourselves from the sun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I agree. I think it's a good thing to have a group shade structure for all the tents. Again, I think it's just a matter of someone taking that and owning it. And we'll follow up with Christy and find out what the progress is there. One thing I want to point out is that, this is a camp of you. It's not like Scott or myself or any of the other leads, just bringing resources for you on the playa. If you see something that's lacking, please call it out. But you might be volunteering yourself to help with that thing. So I don't know if you're like, hey, do we have a massage table? And, we're like, no, we don't have a massage table, but you can bring one. That happened last year. So, things like that are very helpful.
gotcha. So is Christy local to Bay Area?
She is, I think she's in California, but she lives somewhere north of the Bay Area.
Okay, I think I'm back. Am I back?
Yeah.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Only during these meetings does anything technical decide to go to shit on me. So I'm really sorry about that. I don't know what I walked into. Sorry if I interrupted a thought. But I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that have come up as we were going. So when we had our work day the other day, Matt, you were there for that. We found a shade structure that we didn't know we had. So Christy is going to take it on her shoulders right now to see about creating a shade space for everyone that is intense. And what we're planning on doing is setting up the RVs so people are as sheltered from the wind and sun as possible. But the weight of the issue is really on each of you. You need to just make sure you are taken care of, because this is the first year where I'm not guaranteeing shaded space. Only because over the last 4 years, it hasn't been a win-win as far as I could tell. And to avoid problems that we've had in the past and complacency, I decided that, part of radical self-reliance is you guys just got to make sure you take care of yourself. So you could put a solar blanket over your tent, or you could just get a 10 by 10 pop-up. And there's a certain way to put it over your tent so you stay protected against the sun. But if Christy does decide to come up with a plan, we'll work with her to make sure that everybody in tents is as covered as possible. But the bottom line really is that everybody's responsible for their own situation. One funny note from what Matt was saying there is about the 5-HTP. If you don't know what 5-HTP is, basically it's just something that helps your body kind of, this is a non-medical point of view, but it does basically help your body kind of replace serotonin, where you might have lost it the night before, or from a late night adventure, from being overly stimulated. And it's a good thing to have because it's kind of like a mood elevator that's natural. That being said, there's something I've had in my head to do that I picked up from the Burning Man Global Leadership Conference this year, is to create a space called halt. So if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, which is halt, then there should be a place for you just to detach and go to. And if hugs are needed, there are hugs that are plenty. So we'll do our best to make sure that, when you're in that space, myself included, that you can detach and not be bothered. Or you can be bothered if you want to. And definitely, if you have an ally in camp or something like that, feel free to bring that person with you. It could be as simple as, can you just sit with me for a minute? Or, I need to eat something. I'm feeling shaky. It could be anything along those lines. So if you're in that space, use it. So another footnote about survival, it seems once a year we've had someone that overdid it. At least once a year, there's someone that's not sleeping, drinking a lot, not having appropriate amounts of water, and stuff to sustain them. And I'd rather avoid that. That's my partner. That's stuff we want people to be taking care of themselves. And you guys, even though like me, Matt, Sam, Imola, other people that are used to being in camp, and we're watching, and if we're concerned, oh, okay, fine. If we're concerned, we'll come up with a plan to try and approach you and talk to you about it, just to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and that you're feeling supported. So that's important too, is that if you have a concern, let's say Craig's, all covered in body glitter and his eyes are all bulging out of his head. And you're like, I'm worried about Craig because he's all covered with glitter and his eyes are bulging out of his head and he's getting sunburned. Then someone come over and say, hey, Matt, Craig's eyes are bulging out of his head and he's covered with glitter and he's got sunburn. Then, that'll give us a nice, indication that we need to possibly just go, sit down with him with a bottle of water and make sure he's okay. So that kind of group support is going to be really important. Law enforcement, very important things too. This is just something you learn from experience. If you are driving in and you get pulled over, and in any way, shape, or form that they ask you to get access to your vehicle to search it because their drug dogs say that you have drugs, there's something floating around on Facebook, and I'll see if I can find it, on how to approach that communication. Because you do not want to invite them into your vehicle, because they will pull everything out in front of everyone while you are sitting on the ground. And they will literally pull everything out of your vehicle looking for anything. And it's embarrassing and it's humiliating, and you get to be the talk of Burning Man for a couple days. So you got to weigh out the positives and negatives on that. The same thing goes in camp.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You are never to invite authorities into camp. Also, when we have strangers in camp, I'm a little bit iffy about that. You'll see where I might be a little bit hyper vigilant about strangers in camp. I mean, it's one thing if your tent's going like this, for a couple of hours, but it's another thing if someone's just loitering in camp. We've had problems in the past where you meet your new special love on the playa, and that person is suddenly with us about, is part-time, and they're in our shower and they're in our kitchen. Nobody should be invited into our dining area unless you've talked to a lead first. If we have too many people and not enough food, then we need to make sure that camp is fed first. That's the priority. I mean, guests are welcome, but just give us some heads up and talk to myself, Sam, or Matt first. And we'll talk to each other too, but just so we know we've got all of our ducks covered. And let's say Irina is making some great dish from Moscow that night. So what I'll do is I'll go to her and I say, do you have enough food for maybe one or two other people that might be showing up tonight? And if she says, I've got this, I've got borscht for days. And and then we'll say, cool, we're good. Stuff like that. So there's that. Matt, did I miss anything?
So on a couple of things on law enforcement, generally, so one thing you absolutely do not want to do is if you're driving into Burning Man, do not speed.
Yeah.
If the speed limit is 5 miles an hour, do not go 6. Go 4 to 5. Because if you go 6 miles an hour and you drive by a ranger, that gives them, it could potentially give them probable cause to toss your car. So frankly, this is like, generally you like drive into camp, you park, and you never drive again until you're leaving. So it's not that big of a deal. But it's just really tempting if you've been sitting in traffic for 12 hours to get into Burning Man, and you're just ready to get to camp, and like the sun's coming up. Like this happened to me last year, and I'm like, oh my God, 5 miles an hour. You can literally walk faster than that. So go 5 miles an hour in camp, like in the actual crescent moon-shaped camp of Burning Man, and don't go any faster. The other thing is if if a law enforcement person comes to you and says, hey, like, looking for someone, I think they might be a part of your camp. Do you mind if I come back with you and see if I can find this person? So they're asking for permission to come into camp. You can grant that permission, but you should not. They're not saying they have the authority to do it, but if you allow them and invite them into camp, then it's the same thing as if like a police officer knocks on your door and is like, can we come in? Like your first question should be, do I have to? Like, do you have a warrant? Do you have probable cause? I'm not really comfortable with this. Do I have to do this? Same thing if like law enforcement asks to search your vehicle, always ask, do I have to? If the answer is no, then say, am I free to go?
So can I just say something?
Yeah.
So the document that was circulating around on Facebook last year, the first thing that you say is, I do not consent to a search. And every time they ask you anything, that's what you respond. I do not consent to a search.
Yep, that works too.
That is absolutely the golden rule there too. Just a footnote that Imola is actually quoting the document that I referred to a couple minutes ago. Excuse me. So yeah, definitely. But you're not going to be obstructionist. You're not going to be in defiance. You're just asserting your rights. And if they violate those rights, that's an issue for later on. You're not going to win that battle there. But yeah.
And I will say that rangers are different. If a ranger comes to you and is like, hey, I'm looking for someone, I think they're part of your camp, like there's an emergency, I would say, and I'll defer to Scott on this, but I would say rangers, because they work for Burning Man and they understand Burning Man and they should have your best interests at heart. I would say cooperate with rangers, but law enforcement, I do not trust them. And, you know, yes, cooperate, but don't give them permission to do something that, you know, should require a warrant or probable cause.
Can I interject a little bit at this point? So
Yeah.
the word rangers has been floating back and forth here. I think it's important to note that there's actually two different kinds of rangers that are on the playa. There's the rangers that are of the government variety, that are of the, you know, they're like park rangers, but for the area, and they're federal officers. There's Black Rock City Rangers, and they will always be dressed in khaki with patches on their clothing. We have a ranger in our camp. That's Kurt. Kurt is a Black Rock City Ranger. So if you have any questions about that, I would definitely talk to him. There is a very special relationship that Burning Man I can't talk now. Participants have with Black Rock City Rangers is that they are they're on our side. They are the you know, the in between participants of Burning Man and law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime law enforcement or medical is involved, a ranger or more will be around to be the buffer between the two things. Anytime a Black Rock City Ranger comes into camp, they are always welcome. It's not a bad thing to invite them for dinner if they're there. It's not a bad thing if you offer them a drink or water or whatever. It's not a bad thing. So that relationship is something that I personally value, and that as you guys get to know Burning Man more, I think you'll value as well.
And I have a quick comment to that effect, which for so the rangers who are law enforcement, they're BLM, Bureau of Land Management Rangers, and they work for the United States federal government. They're very obvious. They drive around in SUVs. I don't know that I ever saw one get out of their SUV last year. So it's pretty obvious to tell the difference between them and like the Black Rock City Rangers, who are walking around actually interacting with people. You know, they have Burning Man patches. So yeah, if you ever have any questions, concerns, they're a great resource. If someone needs medical help, if you know, you just have a question about where the porta potties, like they're awesome.
And one more footnote about BLM Rangers. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a crowd of people, you know, watching, you know, people dance, hanging out, and there will be Black Rock BLM Rangers literally skulking through the crowd. And the minute that somebody whips out a joint or lights a pipe or dips their finger into a bag of powder, they will snatch you up and take you right out of the crowd before you can blink. They are there. There are undercover people there offering you drugs. You do not accept anything like that from a stranger. And the funny thing is, some of these undercover people are so bad undercover. It's just ridiculous and pathetic, the attempts to try and blend into the crowd. And that's just the funniest thing is when you see that. I mean, imagine, you know, a Marine wearing a tutu and, you know, some funky wardrobe and still just, you can tell this person doesn't fit in. It's funny. It's humorous.
So question, they're actually trying to do this on purpose to fit in and kind of catch you in the act?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they will come to you and say, hey, do you want to buy like something, or do you know where I can find something? And, you know, it's very awkward and you're like, I don't know you. Like, why are you, who, you know, no, go away.
Yeah.
Hey man, you want some LSD? Let's go back to my camp and he'll get some LSD. Yeah, right. Yeah. So just be careful. Watch your backs.
So are there?
Also,
Yeah, go ahead.
if anybody flies in from abroad, I did the mistake last year that when I flew into the US at the customs, I said, I'm coming to Burning Man. So I had my entire luggage completely searched, everything taken apart. As Scott said, it was quite humiliating experience. So if anybody, I think there's a couple people flying from London, from Russia, just say you're a tourist. Even if, yeah, just say you're tourists.
Yeah, and that's really good advice too. Um, I mean, you're just coming to the United States on vacation. And of course, I hopefully doesn't need to be said that you're not bringing any funny stuff in with you when you come through customs. Um, let's see. I had something else in that same stream that I wanted to say, but I don't remember what it was. I've got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah,
Are there any?
I have several questions about survival, mostly. So the first question about gray water disposal. I mean, is it on our own, or camp will provide some ways to dispose gray water?
I'll get that one, Matt. It's what we're doing. Sam and I are working on a gray water evap system. Last year we paid for gray water removal and it just got abused. Now I'm not sure what gray water you're concerned about, but when it comes to cooler water, clean cooler water is going to go into a couple people's swamp cooler system, and clean cooler water. That's not tainted with food will go into some other things. But we also are planning on a evap system that we're still working on, but we have a strong idea how it's going to work out. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, totally. The second question, we're renting our RV, but it's like the first time for us. So what is the way to power generator? So to use generator.
So you're coming in an RV, so you'll have a generator in your RV.
Yeah, but should we bring like gasoline, to yeah? So just lots of gasoline.
Well, I mean, so you're going to bring whatever you need to power that system in there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, like I just heard that there's a way to use gas or something to rent it like in some services near their Reno, something like that. Or maybe I'm wrong.
I think for an RV, you probably just want to fill it up, like completely fill it up in what's the gas station that's off the highway, Scott?
Yeah, it's a Love's. It's called Love.
Yeah. So there's a particular gas station. It's actually in the survival guide, if I remember correctly. And your RV will take a lot of gas. It's going to cost a lot of money, but fill it up completely. And then I don't know that you'll need any more gas, even if you're running your generator some. I would, encourage you to run it as little as possible. But that's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a generator in camp that we purchased. That's going to be, just for mostly the temple. There's going to be a solar power station set up for people to charge electronics, personal electronics. It'll also, if my plan works out, power a light source that'll be in the kitchen. It has its limits. It works really good. It has in the past, but in order to power what we need in the temple space, we need the generator. So that's our power scenario.
And I would actually encourage you too to be self-reliant, like radically self-reliant, and bring your own solar panel. They're pretty cheap. If you have something like a phone that you need to keep charged, like I use a e-cigarette and I have batteries for it that I want to keep charged. So I have a little solar panel I bought online from Amazon, and it lets me like plug in USB devices. And I also have a small battery that I charge during the day. And then at night I have the battery and I can use that to charge other devices. So I'd encourage you, in case like we get to the playa and like the solar panels are shattered, you know, stuff happens, be prepared, you know. We will have the generator. Hopefully it'll be good and working, you know, but there's always the chance that we get out there and the generator's not working either. And so just be prepared to meet your own power needs as needed.
That's ideal advice. I mean, really, I wanna underscore what Matt's saying. Like you don't. I've had a couple people post questions and things to me like that to me in my head say, "Are you taking care of me?" And in my initial response is, "No, I'm not taking care of you guys. I'm essentially working with Matt and Sam and Imola and Jose, and we're setting a stage for us to, you know, create something together on. When it comes to your needs, just make sure that your butt's covered. If you bring your cell phone and you want it charged, I am creating a place for you to charge that cell phone. You know, but if for some reason the solar panel decides it's not going to work this year, and this is our third year using it, are you okay not having that cell phone for the week in case, you know, power runs out? So, you know, that's why when we all talked initially, I remind everyone, you know, you got to bring your emergency water. You've got to, you know, Matt or someone mentioned too about, you know, what food do you have in case something goes horribly wrong? You're going to want to bring your own snacks, protein bars, granola bars. You know, bring food items that you can eat outside of meal times, or you know, just plan for those sorts of things. Did I cover that okay, Brent?
Yeah, yeah. Scott, and one more question. You said that we are supposed to prepare, if we have 3 people, we have to prepare 3 meals. And did I understand correctly that we buy groceries needed to prepare these meals ourselves,
Yes,
right?
yes. And
But-
our next meeting is going to be all about that. The next meeting that we have scheduled is going to be about the meetings and volunteering. That's probably that Matt showed you that form at the beginning of this video, where I'm getting an idea of what people want for their meals, what meals they want to do. And actually, you guys have been so great on that, and I really appreciate that, because I was worried that everybody wanted to do breakfast, which is kind of easier. But the people that are stepping up and doing dinner, I truly appreciate you guys volunteering for that. I mean, some people it's going to be a fiscal issue where it's money, they can't afford a lot. For some people, it's a skills issue. I had, you know, every year I've got at least one person that can't cook. And I've already talked to that one person who's very nervous about even trying to cook. And, you know, I try and work around it. You know, like one year I had a guy that says, he just begged me. He says, please don't make me cook. You know, I put him in charge of the burn barrel. You know, he took on other responsibilities, and that's just, you know, it balances out. You know, but once we sit down and start working on the schedule, you guys are definitely will be asked for input on that, for, you know, the food schedule. and then we'll work together to make sure that you can bring stuff to the playa that will stay fresh and alive through the week.
Yeah, but am I right that we don't need to bring pans and stuff to cook?
Yeah, I still need to order new stuff because all of our stuff was taken last year. So all the cooking, all of our kitchen stuff was taken last year. So I'm replacing that in the near and immediate future. I'm just really watching budget right now because we're just on the line as far as budget's concerned. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we
sorry,
have
and
to?
sorry,
Oh, go
last
for it.
one question about bike rental. So I saw there was some discussion in the Facebook group, but maybe like in short, what way you recommend?
Yeah, what is the best and cheapest way, I don't know, to get a bicycle? It's better to rent or, to buy some old ones somewhere. I don't know.
Rent in Las Vegas.
Let someone answer. Let someone answer. I think Mola wanted to have some input on this.
So which airport are you going to be landing?
We take RV in Las Vegas. RV.
RV from Las Vegas. Okay. Is Reno on the way?
I
No.
mean,
Las Vegas?
No, but you know what? There's if you look at the thread, you can actually set up a bike to be delivered to the playa, and that you pick up the bike from a location there.
But is that the best solution to do that? I mean,
it's going to be the easiest for you guys because then you just drop it off at the end of the week and you're done.
Yeah.
okay.
So it's not like insanely expensive or whatever. No.
No, I think it's like $150.
I think the biggest, if I understand correctly, the biggest bike rental place on the playa is called Playa Bike Repair, and they are awesome people. They really have their act together. They're very reliable. They also offer free like bike tuning and repair on the playa to anyone. Their bikes aren't very cheap, to be honest. I think it's like $200 some, and then like 100 of that is refunded if you return your bike. And the bike's kind of whatever. I mean, it's like a Huffy, something cheap, but it'll work. And you don't have to bring your own bike. I would recommend them unless you have, someone who's used some other service that worked out well in the past.
Okay.
Totally. And that's totally really good advice. Actually, Playa Bike Repair is a community partner of mine here in the Bay Area. And they're great people. So look them up. And if you need a link, I can provide that. They're easy to find on Facebook. The guy that runs the camp is one of my friends on Facebook too. So I can get it connected.
Here's the link, and I just posted it to the chat, and I believe it's about $225 right now, because tier 1, 2, and 3 are sold out. Tier 4 and 5 are left. Tiers are just for the pricing. As you get closer, that's a tier.
Okay, and then I need to start winding down. There was somebody that had a question other than Elena and Mikhail.
That would be me. Should I bring a cooler?
Yeah, bring a cooler. Plan on bringing a cooler for your own stuff. Just like we said before, take care of your needs. And then what we do is we have a system where whoever gets ice in the morning, and that's an important point too, Matt, to cover. Whoever gets ice in the morning is responsible for icing the ice chest with the ice that they get. So if you are set up to get ice on the volunteer list in that morning, you'll go breakfast or brunch and go and get ice. You'll get the money from Matt and with the order, and then we have a wagon that you'll take with you to go get ice for everybody in camp. Matt, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I haven't posted anything yet, but just quickly, I will be collecting money for ice. It's $20 a person. Is that right, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, so I will need that ideally before Burning Man. I can take PayPal, Google Wallet. Just let me know what works for you. I'll post a couple options on the group, and that way I will have like all the cash for ice on the playa, and then every day whoever's volunteering that day to get the ice, I'll give them the cash to go purchase the ice, because you can purchase two things on the playa: ice and coffee. So you have to have cash for those two things.
And I want to make it very clear on what that ice is for. We put
Yeah.
the coolers in a common area, and over the week we'll be condensing them more and more. So we have to buy less ice as the week progresses. The person that gets the ice, like I said, will ice each chest, but before you do that, you'll drain each cooler, and then we'll deal with either clean or dirty cooler water as needed. Some people have these swamp coolers that they use that water for, and that's something that you can build at home and bring. And if you have any questions on that, I would check out Playa. Remember the name of that group? Playa. Playa Tech. Playa Tech is the group, and they have interesting ideas on how you can create a swamp cooler for your tent. Because Sam built one, and he loved it. And it's great for the middle of the day when it's freaking hot. All right, let's do one more question, and then I'm going to start shutting down.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, I just wanted to know about space for transporting things. Well, because I'm looking at my list and I have a ton of stuff, right? So I know that we're going to be bringing other camp-related stuff as well. And I just wanted to know how much space we have. And that's something we can answer offline if it's too. I mean, it's kind of between you and I, right?
Well, yeah, right now it's between you and I because you're riding with me. At least that's the plan, which is actually a good lead into the next subject. So I'm going to kind of put your question on the back burner a little bit.
For sure.
Everybody's responsible for making sure their shit gets there. However you do it, like some people might jump into a regional transport system. Like we got a guy in Colorado, we got some people up near Portland or Seattle, and there's probably a regional shipping container that's coming in. Some of you were ride sharing, and I kind of put a list of what I was suggesting for ride shares, because a lot of people were saying, "How am I getting there?" And I said, "Well, I want to try and arrange, you to ride with this person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." And so I made some arrangements, and we're going to see if we can work, if that'll work out, and we'll make changes as we go. Is that Jared with you? That is Jared, right? Oh, hey, Jared. Right on. So basically, everybody is responsible for making sure their stuff gets out there. You're responsible for your own coolers at first. And then all of those will be moved to a common area. If you want ice privately in your RVs, that's separate. You can order extra ice from our ice people as long as we got enough room to get it back and forth, or you might help get it going back and forth. Yeah. So as far as like you're concerned, Craig, since you're riding with me, I expect that hopefully you won't have so much stuff that you take up the van, but we have to work it out. We got two vans that the camp is piloting out. It's carrying all of the camp infrastructure, plus my stuff, plus whoever's riding with that person. Same with Kurt and whoever's riding with him. And we should be good. If we have extra room, it's impossible for me to tell right now for even more stuff beyond camp and our own stuff. You know, but be smart, you know, about getting it out there. So that comes on to the second subject about early entry passes. This year they're called WAP passes. And that's actually going to be the password for this video is WAP passes. So I got 13 people on my list, and all the passes are going to come to me, and then I'll distribute them. So everybody that's coming early entry, I've started that list. There is a to-do list that's out there that has tabs on the bottom on the Google, on one of the Google links, and I'm putting everything possible into that document related to camp. So hopefully everybody is looking at that document. It shows the early entry people. It shows the projects that are currently working on. It shows inventory that still needs to be updated from our trip last week. But I'm trying to put everything there, and I think that I'm working with Sam on the volunteer list, so we'll put that in there too, and we might be doing some assignments for people, and then we can bend and make adjustments for that. All right. So I don't really have any time for any more questions. We can maybe set up another session just for questions, but our next meeting, I think, is 2 weeks from today. And then we have a work day that's not in the too far distant future that is at my house here in the Castro, San Francisco, where we have a couple projects we'll be working on. And then there's another workday that might pop up because I have access to a wood shop where I work, and I want to get the icon built. That is what's going to represent Kali in our camp. And of course, we have several people, you know, of Hindu background in our camp this year, and I find that a tremendous blessing. So I definitely want to honor and respect that space, and I want everybody else to as well. So if you guys need more questions, Matt's are focused on Burgin questions, and we can definitely set up another Google Hangout for people to be able to ask questions. The thing is if you have a question, there's probably somebody else that has the same question. So at least we can work together on that. Okay, yeah. I have to go to work.
So just quickly, Scott, if you have questions, you can post them in the Sun Guardians group and just tag me. My name is Matthew McCabe. Or if you have questions that you want to have on a one-on-one kind of conversation, add me on Facebook. If I see that you're in the Sun Guardians group, I'll accept, and then you can just private message me, and I'm happy to answer any embarrassing or weird questions you might have that you don't want to put in the group. Like, do I really need a tutu? And the answer is going to be yes. And also, I'll post my email, and you know, we can always jump on a call too if you have lots of questions or concerns. So I use me as your Burgin resource. Ask me all the stupid questions, which are probably not stupid because I had them last year.
And God bless you guys, but please do not post on my personal timeline questions for camp. Just let's focus within the Facebook group, not the Facebook page, which is the public side. Let's put everything onto the Facebook group. Or contact Matt as he suggested. It'll be a container where we can stay connected to each other. And I think that's it. Are we good, Matt?
I think so.
All right, guys. Thank you
Yeah,
all so much. We will
Awesome.
talk
Thank you.
again soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.